Gentlemen, I'm sure you've all come across that very special lady in your lifetime whom, if given the option to, you wouldn't approach with even a 10-foot pole. Am I right? We call her the anti-waifu, and she is the woman, in fact, who Mama didn't have in mind for her sweet baby boy. The woman who is not right for you. The woman you definitely don't want as the mother of your children, and not your ideal. But how? How do you spot the anti-waifu? You may be asking, well, I humbly come here to offer up my list of the 5 tiers of the anti-waifu.
Let the demonetization process begin!
Obviously, everyone has different ideas of what qualities they want their ideal waifu to possess. That can be long brunette hair, short pixie red hair, the quality of being able to cook a mean turkey pot pie, boobs, nice teeth. Everyone has their type. You have all your must-haves, I'm sure. They're all uniquely individual to each and every one of you gentlemen. But, on the other hand, there are a few universal must-nots, I would venture to say, that I think definitely should be listed. Some no-brainers, obviously's, deal breakers, if you will. These are qualities and trends and behaviors that the anti-waifu possesses that should automatically disqualify them from your dating pool. Should. They don't always. This is all, of course, in my very humble yet completely correct opinion, so feel free to disagree with me in the comments if you so choose. But let us begin.
I am a nasty woman.
The tier 1, the least of the extremes. I am not just talking about Instagram models on the internet who spend all of their entire lives in the world finding the absolutely perfect angle to pop their hips out at and pout their lips with, and, you know, the correct degree at which to hold their phones in the air above their faces so that they don't get that double chin effect, but couldn't have been bothered whatsoever to pick up their rooms or vacuum, or maybe wipe down the mirrors a bit before taking slutty selfies of themselves in lingerie for all the world to see. They're usually a pretty obvious indication that the woman is not the waifu for you right off the bat. I mean, we've all had our messy rooms at one point in time or another, don't get me wrong. I'm not one to judge. I've gotten too busy to clean my room every once in a while, but at least, I guess, have at least the decency to shove the clothes out of the way of the mirror's view before you take a selfie. Maybe perhaps even wipe down the mirror a little bit before you do that. It's just, you're constructing an image presentation of yourself to put out into the world, and you couldn't even be bothered to do that correctly. It makes me wonder, in case that's not something that is an obvious no-no, we shall move on to the Bluebell ice cream liquor for an instance of a type of woman whom fits the bill for the nasty tier 1 anti-waifu. This is a woman who you just know one most likely to pass on an STI to one or more persons at some point in her lifetime in high school. This is a tier 1 anti-waifu. Take note. And speaking of being liberal with your body fluids, that reminds me of another example of shamelessly nasty. If you thought that women who passed on diseases to other people in public are bad enough, how about women who intentionally use their communicable oven as a place to breed cultures with which they make their nasty food into, meant for others to consume? Another example of the tier 1 anti-waifu. And I'm afraid it only gets worse from here, lads. It does.
You're trying to get crazy with it. Don't you know I'm local?
This should always go without saying, but I implore you, gentlemen, to refrain from doing the devil's tango with anyone who places on the crazy spectrum, for your own sake. But, of course, that implies that you have some sort of general idea of what crazy is supposed to look like, feel like, smell like in some cases. And I'll be the first to admit, crazy can come in all different shapes and sizes. And sometimes it's not present until much, much later in the relationship. But here are a few examples of just what to look out for in a crazy woman. Crazy looks like yeeting your cat across a room and poisoning it with vodka.
Milo!
Crazy looks like attacking your boyfriend for even looking at another woman.
Sarah, here, come up with us.
Oh, you gonna come up? Yeah, man, I'm getting up, man. Get up. You're assaulting me, man.
Oh, I'm assaulting you?
Yeah,
Here, I'm assaulting you.
Crazy looks like putting garlic, parsley, sea sponges, and bees in your vagina. Or, for that fact, taking anything Gwyneth Paltrow puts out there into the ether seriously. Crazy can even look like riding a cart drinking wine out of a Pringles can. Yeah, it does not take a psych major to figure out what crazy looks like in people, but here we are, and I somehow feel the need to facilitate this conversation further in the comments section of this video. If I've missed anything, feel free to further the input there.
Hello, I like money.
Up next, of course, we have the greedy type. On the lower end of this spectrum are such examples as Belle Delphine selling her gamer girl bathwater, which is just a step below a woman selling her panties to people, which is beyond me. It's not inherently the worst thing in the world, I guess. I'll admit it, sure, whatever, fine. It's not for me, but, you know, I'll let the market decide what it wants to do and all that jazz. I just think it's a stepping stone to a broader world of what qualifies for the anti-waifu tier 3. The next level, of course, in this category falls under women who believe that they are, in fact, more than the $130 engagement ring, when in fact, they are not at all. Not that anyone should ever blow 20% annual salary on a ring to begin with. The notion is absolutely ridiculous. Any idiot should know that the monetary value of a diamond is, in fact, zilch. Thanks to beers. Diamond rings, in fact, depreciate in value once you walk out of the store with the, force of a dying sun. So, fun fact for you there, ladies and gentlemen. For some reason, there are still women out there who would insist that they are, in fact, worth 20% of a man's annual salary, and logically then conclude that the best way to invest in their relationship is with a ring that's going to be worthless in 2 years, if that. Which is a big fat no-no. If she insists on the ring, bro, chances are she is not for you, bro. These women are absolutely not worth 20% of your annual salary, much less the cost of the ingredients it would take for her to make the world's most delicious sandwich for you. And that's saying something. For, I suppose, what we could call the third level of this tier of anti-waifu, I would implore you to recall, if you will, the transgender woman who is now suing no less than 15 different establishments for refusing Brazilian waxing of her balls? Wrap your mind around that one, ladies and gents. It's not the balls that are my concern with this woman. No. It's more so the enthusiasm with this trans woman in targeting establishments, financially taking advantage of a system that unfortunately allows for this kind of abuse. The same system that we will be discussing a little bit more in depth later on in this video when we get to the tier 4 anti-waifu. This ring issue, and to an extent the tranny who wants a Brazilian wax of her balls, it's not inherently a telltale sign of an anti-waifu, necessarily, but it is a red flag to watch out for, because it can be a preamble for the tier 4 anti-waifu.
Judge Judy.
Oh, please. That's floppy. You look ridiculous. Got it?
Those women who abuse the alimony and child support systems to suck the lifeblood out of a man using either a child that isn't the man's, or even in some cases when a woman intentionally finagles a man out of his love juices and impregnates herself with them against any man's wishes. And believe it or not, that does happen quite often. More often than it should, in fact, which reminds me, we need better turkey baster control in this country, and that should be a platform of the 2020 election. Now, come to the thing of it, perhaps I should write a letter to our dear president. Dear Mr. God Emperor the Donald President of the United States Trump, it's me, Weebo. It's been a while. How's the fam? I'm writing because it's been a while, and also because I wanted to ask you to make turkey baster control a pivotal issue in the 2020 election cycle. I believe it's important to protect the brave men and MGTOWs of the United of States from tier 4 anti-waifus. Here's a link to my video on the youtube.com that explains it all in excruciating detail, with graphics. Thank you for your time, Mr. President, and for your consideration. P.S. Unlike the rest of the world, I think an all-white doggo is most certainly not an overt dog whistle to the white nationalists around the globe. All my love, Hail Hydra, Weebo Jones. Now, eventually, a tier 4 anti-waifu situation can culminate itself into something like this man's misfortune, in which a Harvard professor was conned into losing his job, his money, his house, and his family by a lesbian with 2 kids. We've all lied in our lives. I'll grant that. Some more so than others, but there are certain things that you don't lie about, of course. There are things that you should never lie about to your significant other. For instance, like if you have kids already from a separate marriage, or your STI status. Definitely not, don't do that. And those could easily fit into a number of these tiers, these categories, sure. But the type of lying anti-waifu that I really want to address with this isn't just the one that uses the custody and alimony system to their advantage. It's the type of lying anti-waifu that is a little bit more sinister. The type of lying that I'm referring to involves... it's of a more malicious intent, I'll say, on the part of the anti-waifu. And that woman is someone who goes above and beyond the call of duty, who takes lying to the absolute next level. The criminal level, in fact. You see, the custody courts are here on this level. We go above that a little bit more, and we come to an understanding that there is something worse than having your entire financial existence decimated for 18 years. And that occurs when a woman decides that she wants to accuse a man of sexual assault or misconduct untruthfully. There have been countless stories of women claiming false rape allegations in the wake of the Me Too movement, obviously. Most recently, we have Andy Singnor as an example of such nonsense, but there are so many more examples from even pre-Me Too times, in fact. Claiming assault, claiming that a man has wronged a woman in some way, in such a way that is undeniably false, despite the falsities of these allegations. These allegations have come to, unfortunately, fulfill their initial intention, which is, to some degree, whether it be eensy-beensy or massively, ruined men's lives, ensuring that they are never the same, never treated the same. Their reputations left up in the air, if that, and their lives laid bare for all the people to see, all because some bitch decided to lie about them. It's utterly despicable, and that's why Tier 4 anti-waifu are filthy liars. Lastly, we have the Tier 5 anti-waifus, and they require very little preamble, so I'll get down to the point. From the woman who decides one fateful day to use your meat sack as a holster for her danger stick, to the woman who would see fit to remove your danger stick from your meat sack entirely, and all the way up to, including and surpassing, attempted non-consensual sunsetting. If she makes you fear for your own life, she is not meant to be your wife. If her proximity to scissors is of any concern to you, any at all, she's not going to be a good waifu. In other words, if your designated female associate possesses any of these attributes from mild to medium to spicy hot and beyond, you better run, bitch. Run.